7th remote school committee meeting. Tonight, the agenda will go as follows. Excuse me, before I do that, I'd like to do a roll call vote of the committee. Tom?
Here.
John?
Here.
Aaron?
Here.
Sean?
Here.
Carla?
Here.
And Chuck Robinson is here. So as I started to say, tonight's meeting will go we'll immediately adjourn into executive session to discuss collective bargaining relative to the MOA agreement, expecting to return into open session approximately 8 o'clock. When we come into open session, we'll have our normal agenda, public comment via email to school committee at reading.k12.ma.us. And we'll have the consent agenda reports, and then we'll go into the second readings of the policies, followed by the fall reopening update. So, having said, I'd also like to say that in attendance tonight, we have central office staff of Chris Kelly, Gail Dowd, Jen Stiles will be joining us, Dr. Doherty, Danielle Collins, and Linda Engelson. And we're also joined by the building principals tonight. So having said that, is there a motion, please?
Sure. Motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the intent of returning to regular session at 8 o'clock p.m.
Second.
Seconded by Sean. As a roll call, Aaron?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. Thank you. Paul?
Yes.
So just, we're gonna wait a couple minutes, just because a couple of the committee members had wanted a 2-minute recess, so.
Fair enough.
Okay, I think we're good, Paul.
Thank you.
So I'd like to call the committee back in open session, and we'll begin with a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Seconded by Carla. Does anyone have any comments on it?
I have a couple, Chuck.
Okay.
So a couple of things. I meant to send this to Linda ahead of time, but I ran out of time today. We made a decision to remove the DG from our school committee email address in all of our communications. And I think it happened right around the time of this first meeting. So I think in all 3 cases, we should strike the DG from the public input portion of the meeting. That's one part. And so there's three cases of those. I have a question in terms of another part, which is in the superintendent search process, Chuck, unfortunately, Carla and I were disconnected. But I wanted to just clarify what I think has happened, and I'm not sure what was conveyed in the meeting, so maybe an adjustment needs to be made there as well. But you and I met with Ms. Dowd on the RFP, and she met with Ms. Jenkins, but I don't recall us meeting with Ms. Jenkins. Just a minor clarification of order of operations there.
That's correct.
Okay, so that sentence there, which is on page 5 of that meeting section, which is page 8 of the overall packet, just needs some correction there in terms of what actually transpired. And then on page 3 which is page 12, page 3 of the minutes from the 6th of August, there is a rewritten motion, offered a friendly amendment to the original motion. That is actually not the friendly amendment that we offered at that point in time, where it was adjusted, and it was adjusted, just the order of operations was a little weird in the adjustment, because it was adjusted in the minutes way later, and so I'm just trying to figure out the right order of where this goes, because we made the adjustment to include the until DESE comes out with their guidance right around 7:26 or so of that meeting, instead of around 10 o'clock or so of that meeting when it first shows up on page 31 of the overall packet. So again, it's just an order of operations, and I think the overall motion that ended up being there is right, but it just came at the wrong time. So I think if we just adjust that appropriately, we can do it, pending clear guidance from DESE, which showed up on page 22 of that same page 22 of that same minute section. I can send these and summarize them to Linda after the meeting, but those were the adjustments I wanted to make sure the minutes were corrected a little bit.
Okay, does the committee accept those friendly amendments? Okay.
And Chuck, I just had one really minor one as well. On the July 29th minutes under reports, Mr. Brandt reported on the human rights ad hoc meeting versus human relations. It should read rights.
Okay.
I probably said relations, but it should be rights. I don't know. I think I said it correctly.
Okay. So Linda, if you got those, and Tom will send you the what he suggested, and I'm ready for a vote. Sean,
Aye.
Tom,
As amended.
John,
Aye.
Carla,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
and Chuck Robinson. Aye. Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to committee reports. Although before John Doherty, do you know of any staff reports, or you're on mute? You're on mute, John.
We don't have any staff reports tonight.
Okay. Tom, did you have a report?
The only update from a select board perspective is they had a conversation about the Board of Health filling the positions there. They've had another resignation, so they're working to fill the positions and how they would best do that. And also, this may impact us when it comes out, but the green initiative, the Green Town initiative as well, may have other impacts with regards to some of our buildings. I haven't done enough analysis of that, but I think it's something for us to watch and understand what the impact would be if and when that comes to town meeting and other places.
Okay, thank you. John Parks?
No report, Chuck.
Aaron?
Yeah, just briefly, I'll say that members of the CPAC leadership team will be meeting tomorrow morning with Dr. Sties, Allison Wright, and myself, just to touch base about things. And then CPAC is going to have their first meeting of the new school year on Tuesday, September 8th at 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Sean?
Nothing tonight.
Carla?
No report. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Doherty, do we have a firm date set on the financial forum yet?
No, we do not.
Is
There's a finance committee meeting on the 9th, I believe.
are you sure that's not a financial forum? Because I was Eric Burkhardt had reached out to me to meet before that date, so I thought he said it was a financial forum. I'll clarify with him.
Okay. We can check with Bob also.
Okay.
The last
Alright.
I have, Chuck, is he says FinCom meeting on 9/9 is confirmed, but it just says FinCom.
Okay.
I think they're gonna talk reorganization, potential FY21 budgets are the two agenda items. He says.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now we're before we go into the reopening update, I wanted to have the second readings of the policies. So the first one is EBCFA. So, Tom? You're on mute.
Thank you. Motion to approve the second reading of policy EBCFA, face coverings.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. And in the packet tonight, there's a revised based on the conversation from the last meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the revised version of the policy?
Chuck, can I just give
Sure.
a short context?
Sure.
So one of the questions that came up was about the coding. So we did do a little research on this, talked to MASC. Right now, the EBCF is the code for pandemic emergencies. And this is under the National Education Policy Network, which is the coding system, I guess, that is what is used. So any other policies under EBC also cover health and safety emergencies. The coding system doesn't go any further than a 4-letter code. So any policies that fall under the umbrella of pandemic emergency would therefore be coded with the 5-letter designation, which is why the A has been added.
Okay, thank you. Any committee questions? Tom?
Dr. Doherty, thank you for that explanation. That aligns with what I was thinking too, but I guess the question is a logistical one because we don't have an EBCF. So do we need to, accept this provisionally until we accept a pandemic emergencies one from that? Or do we, what do we, I guess it's a logistical.
EBCF doesn't exist.
Right, exactly. But
Yeah,
for us, it doesn't. But from where this is coming from, it does, right? EBCF is pandemic emergencies, like you just said. So we don't have that in our policy packet, but that exists somewhere.
No, it doesn't exist. That's the point that Dorothy Pressa made to us, is that there is not a policy yet that exists. It falls under the category of pandemic emergencies. So you couldn't really designate this as EBCF because it would be a subset of the pandemic emergency.
Okay.
Aaron?
This is more a question, not so much on the wording of the policy, but in the event that we have students, I'm assuming we have students who will be medically excused from having to wear a mask for whatever their personal reason is, but what other accommodations are we making for those teachers or those classrooms, because there will be students or student in the room not wearing a mask?
Dr. Doherty?
Well, first of all, it's very, very rare that a student would not be wearing a mask for medical reasons. It'd be in very, very rare situations. If that is the case, then we would have to take a look at, what measures we could take to make sure that everyone is safely distanced from that student.
Okay. So on a case-by-case basis, but we'll look
Yeah,
at
it would have
whether
to be-
we
it
have
would
to
have
put
to be-
additional measures or precautions into those particular classrooms.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Tom, did you, or did I already got you, right? Okay, seeing no other conversation.
Sorry, Chuck, just one
Sean?
more thing. Just one more thing, and I'll give credit where credit is due. I saw this in one of the emails that came in. We've got a conflict between two statements in this policy. So last time we discussed a change in the second paragraph where it now says a face mask accompanied by a face shield, etc. The intent of that was to suggest that somebody could wear a face shield if they were also wearing a face mask. And then 2 paragraphs later, it says face shields will not be permitted unless, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that the second instance where it says face shields will not be permitted probably needs to say something like Face shields will not be permitted in lieu of a mask or other appropriate covering unless it's probably roughly the right language. I think we're allowing face shields as an and, but not an or, I think is the point.
That is correct. You can't have a face shield without a mask.
Yeah, so I think I'm not sure that that's exactly what these two sentences taken in. I think these two sentences are in conflict. I don't know if others agree.
Are there any situations in which a student could just wear a shield? Is there any situation? There's no situation.
They do not protect the student or others.
So then he's right, that fourth, it's not really a paragraph, it's sort of a standalone sentence, but it doesn't make any sense then.
That isn't, I mean, again, it's going into that next sentence, right? It's exceptions set forth below will not be permitted unless it's provided under the medical, health, or disability exception set forth below. So those exceptions being, you know, medical condition, note from a doctor, documented IEP or whatever, disability impact, health or safety factors, then a face shield would be permitted. But I think Sean's wording, Sean's got a point about the wording. You know, maybe it should be face shields as a standalone protection mechanism or something like that. Will not be permitted unless something else happens. So this actually sort of answers Aaron's question as well. If we correct this sentence a little bit and say you're not going to get the full coverage or full protection that you would get with a mask, but if you can't wear a mask for the reasons listed in the paragraph afterwards, you can wear a face shield. Essentially, is what the exceptions set out below seem to be trying to imply in my mind. Sean, does that make sense to what you're thinking?
Yeah, yeah. So if I could just play it back and maybe tweak it very slightly, something like face shields alone are not sufficient unless it's provided under medical exceptions, etc. So that opens up the possibility that you can wear a face shield over your face mask or other appropriate covering, but the only instance in which you'd be able to wear only a face shield would be if you qualified for one of those exceptions that we set forth below. I'm going to type it in the chat for.
I'm doing it too, and I'm doing it slightly differently than you, so we can talk about it.
Go for it.
Who's typing? Tom? You typing it in? There it
Sean.
is. Okay.
The only thing I changed, Sean, from yours is are not sufficient. I said will not be permitted because not sufficient. I think it's a little bit too flexible, I guess is the right word.
Yeah, that works.
The only difference here is you're adding the word alone between shields and will. Face shields alone will not be permitted unless it's provided under the medical, health, or disability exceptions set forth below.
Much cleaner edit. I appreciate it.
Anything else? Okay, so ready to take a vote on the second reading of the policy as just amended. Sean?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. Thank you. Now we'll have a motion on the second reading for policy IHBHE.
Motion to approve the second reading of policy IHBHE, remote learning.
Second.
Second. Okay. Any discussion on the revised version in the packet? Okay, seeing none, we'll have the vote. Sean,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Carla,
Aye.
and Chuck. Aye. Okay, thank you. At this time, we're now ready to discuss or hear the update on the fall opening from Dr. Doherty. So,
Thank you. So I'm going to pull up a presentation again. Before I begin, we do have, as Chuck mentioned before we went into executive session, several of our principals here this evening, as well as Danielle Collins, our Director of Food Service, and Joe Huggins, our Director of Facilities. So they are available if you have specific questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a short presentation. Some of you have probably already seen this if you went to any of the forums, but I think it may be important for the community who haven't been a part of it. So we have had some very good attendance at the two community forums, the three community forums, and also the three staff forums, where I gave a similar presentation to staff. So at the end, I'll open it up to questions. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about the phase-in, how we've slowed down the phase-in a little bit, and I'll get into the rationale behind that in a minute. September 15th will still be the first day of school for all students. Our high-need students, preschool students, and kindergarten students will be in person. All other students on the 15th will be remote in grades 1 through 12. During that week, we hope to do a couple of things, and we're working with our principals and our teachers on these areas. First is we will be having kindergarten screening. So kindergarten screening will begin to happen this week. We hope to complete that as quickly as possible so that we can get all of our kindergarten students attending the classes in person. We also want to provide short blocks of time, a couple hours for our teachers and our students to be in small group in-person opportunities for orientation. Again, we're going to work with teachers on this. We feel that before we go into remote, it would be important for teachers and students to have that in-person connection so that they can be talking about expectations, routines, and procedures. Perhaps take a look at the learning platform and what that's going to look like, their Google Classroom, things like that. So again, we're working out the details on that, and more will come out with that, but that is our plan. Remote learning will continue over the next 2 weeks after that, so bringing us into early October. And what we're hoping is going to happen during the month of October is we start phasing back into the hybrid model. This is obviously a little bit later than what we originally proposed, and a lot of this is going to depend on two factors. One is filling the staff vacancies that you're going to hear about in a minute, but also we're going to be monitoring, obviously, the medical data throughout the region and in our community to see if we are able to safely return back to school. Obviously, right now, the data is very favorable for Reading. We obviously hope that continues, but we will be monitoring that as part of our phase-in. So the reasons for the delay that I want to bring up, first of all, and we've been communicating this all summer to the community and to the committee, is that we have had delays in waiting for some of the recommendations to come from DESE. And, I want to start off by saying that, this is not to put the blame on any one group or any one agency or any one thing, that we are all dealing with at different levels what's going on with this pandemic and how we're approaching it. And, none of us have gone through this before. So I would say the same thing at the state level, that they are also dealing with this for the first time, and they're working out things. So we have received at times recommendations slower than were originally promised or predicted. Jen Stice can tell you about special education and how there have been many times we've been waiting for the state to give us guidance and direction on special ed, and how that was always, delayed or slowed down, or recommendations changed as we went through the summer. And that creates a domino effect for trying to implement things. And as you know, we submitted a plan to DESE in the first week in August, by August 14th, I think it was, mid-August. And that, began once we communicated that we were going to a hybrid model and that we were going to be phasing in that hybrid model. Then staff had to make different decisions based on the model for their own individual reasons. And so that started creating staff vacancies. And we did get a higher volume of vacancies due to the model that we've chosen. And so I'm going to get into that in a little bit about what those vacancies entailed. We've also, like any other school district in the area and also in the country, have had some technology shipment delays. We're actually in a better place than a lot of school districts. If we are not a Chromebook district, we are a Windows-based district, and many school districts have seen a delay in the delivery of their Chromebooks, and it's going to be several months before they get their Chromebooks. We did a lot of our ordering thanks to Gail's efforts and Julian Carr's efforts in May and June, and that resulted in a lot of our technology to be already here, laptops in particular. But we have only received some of our cameras. Would that stop us from opening school? Absolutely not, because of our laptops all have cameras. Would it change the way classroom instruction looks remotely in the satellite room? Yes, it would. But we could still do it on a short period of time. The other delay, and this is also happening across the country, is the MERV 13 filters. Every school district is ordering these. Joe Huggins actually ordered them earlier than the mandate came out. Or not mandate, mandate's the wrong word, the recommendation came out. And we still, are waiting for that shipment to happen. And it looks like it's going to be either late September, early October for those filters to be coming in. We did, however, replace all of the filters in our classrooms with the MERV 8s, which is filters that we've been using consistently for several years now. It is a higher grade filter. So we are confident, along with all the other precautions that we've taken with our HVAC, that our HVAC systems are fine and ready to go. So in terms of the categories of leaves that we have been addressing, and this really has been a team approach in working with all of the individual staff, and we're talking about primarily teachers and paraeducators, are the two groups that have been requesting the leaves. And I want to thank Gail and Kristen Cohen and Kathy Carberry for their efforts. It really has been a team approach in the way we've addressed this in the absence of HR administrator right now. So the first category of leaves is what is called the EFMLEA, and that is under the Family First Coronavirus Act. And these are staff who are requesting 12 weeks of leave because either their child's school schedule does not align with their teaching schedule or work schedule, or they're not able to get childcare. So we do have a few teachers that are in this category, and so they would be taking this leave for the 12 weeks, and then at that point they would either return or they would take a leave of absence for the rest of the year. We also have, like we do every year, maternity leaves. They would fall under FMLA. What makes it a little bit more challenging this year for this group is because this is a higher risk due to COVID, that some staff may not be able to work in person prior to the due date. So what has been happening is they actually are going to have to request additional time if we are in person, and that we would need to get substitute coverage for that, where normally they would have been teaching right up to their due date. The third category that we've been working with, and this has actually been the largest group, is the medical group. This group is unable to teach in person due to medical reasons, and this could be pre-existing conditions. Some it's the age concern, anxiety, uncomfortable coming to school. So these staff, we've been doing the interactive process of meeting with each individually, going through with them their options. Some were able to provide accommodations for them to be able to work in person. Others we are not able to. And so those that are not able to, then they're going to have to take a leave, because at this time we would not be able to provide a fully remote accommodation as we're going to a hybrid model. And then that dovetails into the accommodations group, which this group we are able to provide different accommodations. So this could include additional PPE, such as a KN95 mask or a face shield or both, and schedule changes or having them teach in one room versus rotating through many rooms. And this would allow them to come to work in person. And so we're working closely with the building principals on to see if those types of accommodations can be made. And then the last category, which again, we do have a small group every year, is resignations. And that group has resigned due to a variety of reasons. Many of them not COVID related, but they may be relocating outside of the area, or they're going to spend the year with caring for an elder parent or family care or something like that. So the impact of this is currently we're working with 97 different teachers and paraeducators who are in the inquiry phase. And so I want to emphasize, because I know this has come up a few times in the forums, that we do not have 97 requests for leaves. What we do is we have 97 staff that have inquired and belong in one of the 5 categories that I mentioned in the previous 2 slides. And some of it may be simple as just asking, do they qualify for an accommodation? To, as I was saying earlier, that we are providing an accommodation for them. And as I said, each situation is unique. There is no one blueprint or boilerplate that we can follow, because each person has a unique situation that the interactive process explains. Once we get those leaves and accommodations and they're approved, the positions are posted and the hiring process begins. Our principals have been extremely busy with the hiring, and they've been processing the paperwork, and we've been moving it as quickly as possible when it reaches us here at central office. The thing that's important to understand is that there are many school districts right now going through the same thing we're going through. This is not unique to Reading. Many school districts are experiencing a higher volume of leaves. So obviously we are competing with the same pool of candidates regionally for all of these positions that are open. And that is also slowing down the process. The bottom line is, because of these staff vacancies, we do not have enough people to safely open and phase in a hybrid model right now. Moving on to a couple of other items before we open it up to questions. Want to talk a little bit about, and Joe is here this evening if you have some additional questions for him. Due to his efforts, Kevin Gerstner, Kevin Kabuzzi, our custodians, our facilities maintenance department, they have been doing a yeoman's work this summer preparing our classrooms, and I know that several of you have gone on tours of the classrooms in the schools to see that. By September 15th, we will be ready. The classrooms will be cleaned, disinfected, and set up with the appropriate 6-foot social distancing of chairs and furniture. Each classroom will have hand sanitizer dispensers installed. The hand sanitizer we are using is fragrance-free for anyone that may have allergies to scents. We will have floor markings set up for one-way traffic, the 6-foot circles that you may have seen at a market basket or something like that. Our high traffic areas, such as main offices, nurses' offices, guidance suites, cafeteria, will have protective shields. In addition to that, our facilities department has ordered and made, in some cases, individual mobile shields that can be used for one-on-one testing or one-on-one work for our special education staff. And several have been using those already this summer. And all of our unit ventilators have been cleaned and new filters have been installed. Some other things I do want to mention, Commissioner, and I sent this out in a update, I believe it was update number 12 on Saturday. Commissioner Riley did send out a memo on Friday regarding providing opportunities for teachers that live in Reading to allow their children to attend both weeks of the cohort. Unfortunately, we are not able to provide that accommodation right now for teachers that live in Reading. We just don't have the capacity to have more students in person both weeks than currently we do have, which would be our high need students, our kindergarten, and our preschool. In addition, the commissioner also talked about having teachers, if they were teaching in their classrooms, bring their children in. We, again, could not accommodate that at this time due to the fact that it would be a logistical issue, and also it would be a liability issue both for the school district and for the parents. In terms of personal protective equipment, due to the efforts of Gail and Jen Stice, Mary Juliana, and Joe Huggins, we are well equipped to start the school year with PPE. I believe also we've received some donations both on the town side and the school side. This is obviously going to be very helpful, and we've ordered different types of PPE for the different roles that we have. We will have PPE for our staff. We will have PPE available for students, although students will be required to bring their own PPE in case they forget or it's damaged or they're wearing PPE that is not going to be approved. We will have PPE available for them. A couple weeks ago, I did send out a memo to in one of the updates about there is some PPE that will not be allowed in our schools. This is a PPE that has been shown by research studies to not be as effective. So the neck gaiters, which I know are very popular right now, bandanas, knitted masks, and masks with valves, all have shown that they do not have a very high efficacy when it comes to droplets. So those we are not going to allow in our buildings for students or staff. We also want to announce that we're going to begin our technology deployment next week from September 2nd through the 14th. So if families did sign up for a laptop for their child or children, they will be receiving an email from our technology department. This is where they can sign up for an appointment to pick up their computers sometime between September 2nd through the 14th. They will be picked up at 2 locations. One will be at the bridge at the cafeteria, which is where we're doing the pickups last spring, and the drop-offs, and also at the Fine and Performing Arts entrance. And I want to thank Julian and his crew for all of the work. I mean, we'll be deploying probably close to 800, if not more, computers for our students, as well as some hotspots for those that do not have internet access. Athletics and extracurricular activities. Obviously, this is a very important part of student life, particularly at the middle school and high school. In terms of athletics, last week, the MIAA and DESE sent out joint recommendations. This week, the Middlesex League athletic directors and superintendents met, and it looks like the direction we're going, and we don't have specifics yet on this, but it will be a shortened fall season with fewer sports. Those sports that will not be occurring in the fall season will be pushed to what is called Fall 2, which is kind of ironic because it's happening in late winter to early spring, but that's what the MIAA has called it. We're also awaiting word for some of the level 2 sports and what accommodations will be made to see if we're going to offer those sports in the fall, and that would be soccer and field hockey. I know that they're making some changes to things like corner kicks and throw-ins and contact, wearing masks during the games, things like that. So we're going to look at those accommodations and then make a determination as to what sports we will be offering in the fall and then in fall 2. Food distribution, again, Danielle is here if you have any questions for her, but she has done an amazing job this summer, and her staff with the seamless summer food distribution. We were part of a waiver through the federal government to be able to distribute food during the summer. Unfortunately, that is coming to an end the first day of school, which is September 15th. We have written letters to our congressman, and we are advocating at the state and federal level to try to get that waiver extended. My guess is this is going to be part of the next stimulus bill, which is currently being debated in the House and Senate at the federal level. We will be providing free and reduced lunch food for those that qualify beginning when school starts, but as of now, the seamless food distribution will end when school begins, which is unfortunate. And then flu shot, there will be this year as part of the immunization requirements. Flu shot will be a requirement for all students in K-12. There are some medical and religious exemptions to that. Students do have till December 31st for that. We are looking into options for being able to provide flu clinics. Would be working with the Board of Health on that. We did do this several years ago when we had H1N1, and it was fairly successful, but that is more of a Board of Health discussion. And so we're looking at that option as well. I want to briefly go over the training schedule, and Chris Kelly and her team have done an amazing job putting together this 10-day schedule. Usually it's a 2-day schedule, and with the new requirement for this year only, where we're providing 10 days of training, there's a lot going on. And so I'm just going to give you and Chris will be able to answer any questions you may have about specifics. But just to give you an overview, the first day is more of the traditional welcome back with a virtual. Everything will be virtual on the first day. So we'll have a virtual welcome. And then the first focus, which will be health and safety, will be led by our director of nurses. And then the traditional medical presentation by our school nurses, which will be at the building level. And then we're going to have a virtual social emotional support training offered by members of our district SEL team. So in between, staff will be working either at staff meetings, virtual staff meetings, or having department or grade level or team-based meetings, or they'll be working on planning with their technology platforms. So those are the different things that'll be happening in between some of these meetings. Day 2 is equity and differentiation. There will also be a district-wide special ed meeting on this day for all staff, which Dr. Stice will be coordinating. Grant Hightower will be doing a presentation on equity and differentiation, and then there'll be building-based meetings around this discussion. There have been several buildings over the summer that have had book discussions on this topic. Obviously, this is a extremely important topic and continues to be in our country and in our area. Day 3 is going to be the first of the building-based days. Staff will be coming in person on this day, working again in socially distant groups on a variety of topics. And that will be coordinated by our building principals. Day 4 is our technology, beginning of our technology. In the virtual classroom, there will be a lot of technology training. On this day, they'll be getting training in Google Classroom, Google Suite tools, Zoom, Seesaw, Edpuzzle, Peer Deck. These are some of the tech tools that our staff will be using this year with our students. Friday will be a remote building-based day, day 5. And then moving to the 8th, day 6th will be another building-based day, and the principals will be coordinating that. And then this is actually an error, and I apologize. The 9th through the 11th will be continuing on the curriculum technology planning piece. This is where teachers will be setting up their classrooms, their Google Classrooms, and other remote tools, learning how to use these tools, planning the different lessons as they begin to unveil for the beginning of the remote year. And then the 14th, which is the Monday, day 10, will be a building-based day prior to the first day of school. The last piece I want to mention before we go to questions is that where we do have a lot of positions open, this is the link to the HR website area where we have all of our positions posted. And so if you are interested in applying for a position, or if you know someone that is looking to apply for a position, if you go to this link on our website under Human Resources, you will see all the open positions right now. So we encourage you to apply. So at this point, I will take questions along with any other staff. We'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Doherty. John?
John, thanks for all this information. It's truly appreciated. One of the things that came up the other day was half day K remote going to full day K at the semester break. That was yesterday's meeting. Do we know for a fact we're going to be able to do that with space requirements as we currently have them?
You're on mute.
John.
That's a great question. That's a great question, John. So we feel we can. What is going to end up happening, and we've been monitoring the requests because we have had some families opt out of full day K to go to half day remote. Understandably so right now, they're trying to figure out, or half day person, in person. So we feel that we'll be able to do it. It's going to require us to look at perhaps having a fully remote teacher for our half-day Ks right now as we go through this transition process. And I've been working with Lisa Maria Polito and Sarah Levesque, because they're the two half-day K principals, on what this is going to look like. But we do have sufficient space in our full-day classrooms to be able to make that transition if needed.
Okay. Chuck, I have two more questions, if okay.
Sure.
The other one was the technology piece that came up with parents asking if we could get information out to them on programs that they made to download prior to school starting, things like that, as well as the technology they need to purchase. And I know there was some serious concerns raised in regards to that, and thank you for getting the email out so quickly on that. We've clarified through our tech group that there are no issues with Chromebooks at this point. They can be used.
That is
Excellent.
correct. Yes. I don't know. I was going to let Chris talk a little bit about if she wants.
Sure. Hi everyone.
Hi, Chris.
So we've actually, one of the things that we've been developing is we are developing a Google site with links to all of the tools that we are going to be training teachers on in the next week. We're going to have an in-house one for staff, but we're also working on a parent one as well. We're also going to offer some drop-in sessions as soon as school start, as soon as we get our first wave through with our staff training. We will be having the same, what we've done is we've had virtual learning tech leads. The leads are going to be facilitating some parent groups as well after we get the staff sort of up and running. But yeah, we've already started populating a Google site that will have all the links that that will be attached to our website, so that parents will be able to say, oh, okay, how do I use this, or how do I log on, or how do I do that? And then as well as access to a help desk, if you will, that they can submit questions or concerns as they come up.
Excellent. And then
Go ahead.
I had one other question. DESE had mandated an SSO for single sign-on for users, whether it be educators or students. Do you know where we are with that currently, and if that's going to roll out on time?
So I can answer that if you want, Chris, unless you have.
I don't have any additional information on that right now, John.
Okay. So I know that Julian is working on that as we speak. I've had a couple of conversations with him about it.
Okay. Do we know if it's going to roll out on time?
I do not know the answer to that yet.
Thanks, Chuck.
Good, John. Thank you. Tom?
Thanks, Chuck. Thank you, Dr. Doherty. One of the questions that came up in one of the forums that I'm still not quite clear on, even after, and especially looking through the deck, is the kindergarten screening and the timeline of that versus when kindergarten starts being on-prem, in person. The deck says kindergarten starts in person on the 15th of September and theoretically continues full-time in person. But it also says kindergarten screening will be taking place throughout those couple of weeks. I'm in the meeting I was attending this morning. The answer to the parent was that when the screening is going on, the children won't be in the classroom. They won't be in class. They won't be in school. So that seems to conflict with each other. But maybe it's a time of day issue. Is screening happening after the normal school day or before the normal school day, and the kids are there for the normal school day? Or can you just talk a little bit more about the logistics of how the kindergarten screening will work and what parents can expect for their students during that time period?
I can start it, and then I think I see Joanne and Beth, if they want to add something to that. Normally, kindergarten screening is done in the spring before the students come to school. And so what happens in the spring is that we do provide coverage for our kindergarten teachers and other staff to do that screening. Now that the students are in the school, we're not able to do that as easily. So the screening is going to look a little bit different. And so we're not going to be able to provide instruction at the same time that we're doing the screening. So what we're working on, and we're meeting tomorrow actually to finalize this, I'm meeting with the elementary principals tomorrow to finalize this, is that we're going to have the screening process. We hope to do it in as short as amount of time as possible, but we want to make sure we do it the right way. During that time, the students will not be in classes as we're going through the screening process, because the teacher is not going to be able to do both at the same time.
So that means essentially the kindergarten in-person won't really start on the 15th. It'll start maybe 2 weeks later, because the screening will take that 2 weeks as the current plan is written.
I don't want to put a timeline on it yet, Tom, because we need to meet and talk about it tomorrow. But the plan is to do the screening as quickly but effectively as possible.
Okay. And just a quick follow-up on that, because I think we talked about earlier in the spring, screening will also include the dyslexia screening that's required as part of this fall as well. Or is that no longer required?
Chris on that?
So, yeah, Tom, we are doing that, but we may not be doing it with the screener. We're actually going to be doing it beyond kindergarten as well. So, yeah, we don't intend to do that week, but we will be doing it. We'll be sending more information about that. We're going to have to train people on the new tool and all of that. With everything else to train, we have a little bit of time, but yes, we have the contract. We're ready to go on that.
I had one more logistical question, I guess, or communication question. I've had multiple parents reach out to me about misunderstandings potentially about when the high school would go back and when they would start versus what is showing up in the deck. I think there were a couple of freshman orientation programs this week, and I heard multiple parents tell me that the high school was still planning October 5th. I don't think that's the case, but I just wanted to clarify that officially between what you proposed here, November 1st, and what's been said for the freshman orientation or freshman, I don't even know what the class, I wasn't there, but I've heard multiple parents talk to me about it, so I was just hoping we get clarification on that.
So I think I see Kate. Kate, are you there? Yes.
Can you guys see me?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I think we were just waiting on some clarification from you all in terms of a vote to approve the new plan. And so Jess, being someone who looks at the information that she has presented to her, shared that information on the 5th. I do think that we're pushing the time back. But my understanding was that today was when the school committee was going to approve the updated plan. Am I not correct in that, John?
There's no vote.
There's no vote.
No. Okay. So I'm not correct in that. So I apologize. So we'll be looking to district guidance for when we come back. I know I saw in the timeline that we'd come back earlier if the conditions allow, but it does look like conditions as they are now, we're looking at mid to late October for a start. So it would not be, freshmen would not be in on that October 5th date. So I'll make sure that I clarify the record on that for our freshman parents and for our students as well.
Thank you, Kate.
Sure.
Thank you. Aaron?
Hi. So sort of to piggyback on what Kate was just saying about conditions, I just want to make sure that I understand, because I've been getting a lot of questions and realizing that I can't answer them all. So maybe other people are wondering this, but so we have a list of job postings, which you just shared, and there's maybe 40 some odd school-related positions on there. Are you saying that when all of those are filled, we can go into the hybrid plan, or are there additional staffing needs that are not addressed?
So we're not And I don't know if the number is 40 because some of those may have already been filled, to be honest with you. And
Understood.
yeah. So a couple of things. One, and you and I talked about this a little bit today. What we need to do, and I'm going to meet with principals weekly, is to gauge their staffing, continue to gauge their staffing needs as we go through that process. If we feel that there is grade level or grade levels that are ready to be phased in, then we will move forward with that phase in. We won't wait necessarily till every single position is filled. We have to see what, the capacity is. Are we able to move forward with a certain grade or grade level to be able to do that? Obviously, the elementary students, I'd like to get them in as soon as possible for various reasons. But if there are other levels that are ready, because our staffing is complete, then we'll certainly do that. But it would be a district-wide, it would not be building by building. Except obviously the high school.
I understand that piece. I guess I'm still trying to understand if all of these positions are filled, do we have enough staff to run our hybrid model at every level of the school system? Because I'm hearing otherwise.
We're not done through the process yet. So the answer is no, because you haven't seen. We're still going through the interactive process with several staff members.
I'm not sure I understand your answer.
There's still going to be openings that are not posted here.
Right. But with our number of staff, whether we are hiring, long-term subs, or whether we are able to make accommodations and support our staff in teaching in the hybrid model, do we have enough people to make our hybrid model work at every level? At the middle school, at the high school, at the elementary schools?
We're currently assessing our needs, and if there's additional staff we need to hire, we'll look for a funding source, and then we'll move forward with the posting of those positions. Like, for example, one of the things that the committee is aware of, that we're able to provide the specialists in a position so that they're only teaching in one building per semester at the elementary level. I'm talking about art and music. That required it to increase a part-time position to make that happen. So it's that type of thing that we're assessing as we go along. And seeing the impact of that. So this is part of the weekly conversations that I'm having with building principals as we go through this part of the process.
Okay, so if the principals at a particular level say we can't possibly make this work without additional bodies in the building, that's something that we're going to talk about?
We'll be posting additional positions if once we identify a funding source, and yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Aaron, Dr. Doherty would come back to the committee to discuss the funding source.
Okay.
I've said all along we would need additional staffing to make this work, and that's what we're assessing right now. The problem is because we're still trying to fill the vacancies that we know we're going to have. We can't fully assess everything yet.
Okay. I just want to be clear that if that's part of the hang up, then I support moving forward with that and figuring out what additional bodies we need and posting those as soon as possible, because I wouldn't want that to be the hang up. If we know now, even when we fill, X, Y, and Z leaves, we're still going to need 3 more bodies in order to, get this school off the ground, then I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, I would like to see us moving forward on that and not
right.
delay.
I completely agree with you, Aaron. We're still sifting through all that because of these other complications, but we're on the same page. I completely agree with you.
Okay.
We will be doing that as quickly as possible.
You all set, Aaron?
Yeah, for now.
Sean?
Yeah, 2 questions. Back to the kindergarten screening piece. what is our expectation for what that would look like for families opting for remote kindergarten? Will we expect them to have an in-person screening, or are we going to figure out how to do that remotely?
I think our intent is to try, unless this for some reason they can't, is to do in person.
Okay. And yeah, obviously, if there's a
Right.
significant reason, we'll offer some accommodation there. And then my second question, on this point around the staff that we need to, or the openings that we need to fill, I guess my question is, what is there that we can do as a committee to help accelerate this, right? I mean, can we be bringing in, temporary HR help to take some of the load off of you and the rest of the admin team? I read an article last week, and I know some of our principals are on, so a little awkward to say this, but I read an article last week about the mental health of principals and how it's in a tough spot right now. And I hesitate to think about our principals having to hire 6, 8, 10 people on top of everything else that they're doing right now. So can we bring in, again, HR specific help for them, that we share across a couple buildings or what have you? Like, what can we do as a committee to help accelerate this and take some of the burden off? Because as you alluded to earlier, we're going to be competing against all these other districts. It's going to be difficult under the best of circumstances, and we're not under the best of circumstances. So what can we do?
So I don't want to speak for the principals, and they can piggyback after I say something, but one of the most important things a building principal does is hire staff. It's not something you can delegate to someone else. So for example, if they have to hire a second grade teacher, they're going to have to eventually be part of the interview process. So that, and the checking of the references. So we're working with them to streamline as much as possible that piece of it. We also have been trying to hire an HR administrator. As I said earlier, there's 4 of us doing the work that, Jen Allard was doing. And this is just this piece of it. So where, we have not been successful in finding a replacement at this point. We've had some interviews and they haven't worked out. So we're going to continue to look at that. But to me, that would be a critical piece. It's very difficult, though, to bring someone on board right now when we're trying to do all of these other things with the leaves. Because you need to have a consistency.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to thank you, Sean, for mentioning that article. I happened to read it myself. But I think something that has to also be noted is that there are not a lot of people applying for these positions. So our district is not the only one that is looking for a lot of positions. So, all of us, all the principals are hiring, and we're all calling each other throughout the day to compare notes on candidates. And I'm not going to bring someone in unless they're going to be the caliber that I want at Barrows just to fill a position. So I'm taking my hiring really seriously, but for the positions that are open, I'm not getting enough applicants to really be able to feel that I'm, able to fill the positions at this time.
So maybe the other angle on this is there the opportunity? I mean, could we engage a search firm, right? I mean, I want to think outside the box here and approach this maybe differently than we have in the past, recognizing that the principals need to have kind of the ultimate say on who comes into the building. How do we expand the top of the funnel then, if that's the problem, right? I mean, there's got to be something we can do if we're willing to throw the resources at it to get us moving in the right direction.
Oh, and I think we all completely appreciate that. And like I said, we communicate several times throughout the day, which is really helpful because then we're not wasting our time interviewing people that are not what we want for our standards. So that's been really helpful. I did, I talked to someone today who was fantastic, and I am making some progress, but like was being said earlier, we still have just too many openings to be filling at this time. So that's why we're still working on it.
Joanne, did you have something to add to it as well?
Hi, just to reiterate, to answer Sean's specific question about using an outside agency, we have done that in the past. One of the things that's difficult is getting a temporary agency who has applicants who actually have some experience or training in education so that we can get some caliber applicants to apply for the positions. I will tell you it's tricky filling satellite classrooms. You know that we use our resources very efficiently, so we don't have a lot of extra people floating around. So to cover satellite classrooms plus cafeterias, plus remote learning for the students who are staying remote and taking care of the people who are going to be in the building, it's a little bit tricky. I will tell you, I think everybody's trying their best to post positions as quickly as possible. You know, at the elementary level, it's like a one-woman job. We don't have other people kind of screening the applicants and going through those things with us, but we are absolutely doing our best. I think to your point, Erin, if we don't have the people that we need by the time school opens, you know, then we have to make a decision. But right now I can tell you everybody is working ferociously on trying to fill positions and make sure that we have staff in place. It's just really difficult.
Thank you. Carla?
Thank you, Chuck. And it's nice to actually hear from the principals and see you on Zoom. So in addition to the administrative staff, thank you to the principals and all the support staff and everything that you guys are doing. I think I have kind of two different parts to my comments. We will get to a point where we're going to have to reevaluate, right? That if we continue to find that staffing shortages are going to be the reason why we can't progress along, then we're going to have to get to a point where we're going to have to reevaluate what our current plan is, and look at that in a different light. And I don't know if that is space requirements or other avenues. I'm just going to leave it at that. So I appreciate the constant communication to know when we do get to that point where we feel like we're just up against the odds with trying to hire staff. In that same light, we've received a lot of emails from parents concerned about getting kids back in the buildings. And I'm wondering, I know you've spoken about, let's see who we can get in the building. Maybe we're doing a phased approach and getting different groupings of children back to school. I can't help, having had a senior just graduate, I can't help but think of the seniors, current seniors this year, and think of what a disadvantage they're at with the missed opportunities of colleges and being able to look into colleges and see where they would like to go. And then with SATs and all of the prep work that needs to be done in the fall, not having access to guidance counselors and writing essays and early applications and just applications on how you even qualify for college. So if there is a grouping of people other than the preschoolers, kindergartners, high needs and high risk children, if there is another group that I would say the next group to move in, our cohort, their second cohort at the high school of juniors and seniors, because they're in a cohort, just to get them back in the buildings, even if it's just for their basic classes or their major classes and in person and access to guidance and possibly doing other classes online or remotely. So, and I think we may have to start thinking of phasing in and letting in different groups of children with different needs at some point in time. So.
And I appreciate that, Carla. Chuck, can I have Kate?
Sure.
Respond to some of that?
Sure. Carla, thanks for raising that. I did, Lynna Williams, our director of guidance, has been in for the better part of a week and a half, and she and I have fielded a couple of parent email concerns kind of about the college and career process with from parents, just really concerned that they're falling behind in some way, shape, or form. So, and you know, Lynna has, I respect her greatly. She has the highest standards for supporting our students, not only socially and emotionally, but for college and career readiness. And so I asked her point blank sort of about this. And, you know, we both acknowledge that it's a really stressful time for parents, for seniors. It's stressful on a good day under the best of circumstances. And I had you know, I have a college sophomore, so I'm not that far away from the college process. And please know, families who are listening and school committee, that our goal is to support our seniors and our parents and make this process as smooth as possible in this very difficult circumstance. And so to that end, our counselors are absolutely on track. They have actually been in this week. So they have summer days that we pay for out of my budget, and they're using them slightly differently, and so they're prioritizing the seniors in terms of getting themselves organized. They're also prioritizing the freshmen, and so there'll be communication that's going out within a week. Seniors will receive an email from their counselor. And they're going to be doing this a couple different times. And you probably maybe are familiar, there's a checklist of things that they should be thinking about and getting done. That's going to be slightly tweaked for this particular time frame. Current to-do items that they could be working on now. And Lynna, in fact, said that this will be going out and will be going out earlier by a couple of weeks compared to years prior, because counselors know that it's such a highly stressful time. Counselors will also, within this week, be sending their timeline and schedule of when they'll be working with seniors. And our counselors work with our seniors in person, individually, and in small groups. And we're working to find creative ways to, during the time frame that we are remote, to have our seniors come in, maintain social distancing, but engage person to person, you know, in-person meetings with their counselors, as well as virtual meetings. So we're working to try to schedule those. They use an app called Calendly to do that. And those will begin on target to years prior in mid-September. What that meant in years prior is that we would have had 2 weeks of school. Right now, it's when school starts virtually on the September 15th, it's that week that seniors will be, and so they'll be making those appointments prior to that. They'll be having those meetings, having those meetings with their counselors that first week of school, which is the middle of September, the week of September 15th. So there's much planning that our counselors, with Lynna's direction and guidance, they have been doing behind the scenes so that the process goes as smoothly as possible. In regards to SATs, I mean, that's a moving target, and we're looking at a variety of different options for that. Making sure perhaps can we even have SATs in October? So we're getting some guidance, but not as much as we would like from College Board. So we'll surely keep you updated as we get information from College Board. We're really encouraging students to not apply or submit applications prior to meeting with their counselor. There's too many things that could go wrong, an incomplete application, and so we really want our students to wait until they meet with the counselors, and they're going to be on par with last year, with years prior that timeline. So just know that it's that we want to make sure that when they do submit their applications, that they are that they're done well, they're thorough, they're complete, and they've maximized their their opportunities with their college applications. We're hosting a college admissions panel September 23rd. It is virtual. We have representatives, and this is specifically for students. We have representatives, parents could certainly jump onto though, from Boston College, UMass Amherst, Hofstra, and the University of South Carolina confirmed for the panel to talk through the admissions process. So that is September 23rd. It will be virtual. We'll be sending out a link. It will be in the evening. And then the week after, and we're confirming a date, there's going to be a specific night for senior parents in late September. So after that week, and about the college process. I think the one other thing that I wanted to say in terms of the application deadlines, the early application deadlines are really not until October or November. And so we do feel that we have enough time. I know I confirmed with Lynna that we have, this does still give us enough time, even though school starts on the 15th. If we hit the ground running, so to speak, right on the week of the 15th, that we have time for counselors, ample time for them to work with students. And again, they'll be getting reached out to or from the counselors within this week. I think they might even be able to send out communication as early as tomorrow. They're kind of balancing that with communicating with freshmen, but definitely next week they'll be, counselors will be reaching out to seniors and their families. In terms of bringing seniors back in, I think that's a little bit more of a complicated conversation, but please know that when we do begin school, we're working really, really hard for all of our students to have a very robust remote learning experience. And so they will have all of their core academic classes, they will have their electives, and schedules will be available. Our goal is right after Labor Day. Chuck is working on finalizing the schedule right now to do a final run, and then we'll work our magic to maximize the schedule. And we are hoping that students, seniors first, would get access to their schedules right after Labor Day. Some minor adjustments to the schedule. There are likely, that's one of the things the counselors will look for, to do minor adjustments, making sure that students do have all of the classes that they do need. And we really do feel confident that even in the remote several weeks that we'll be in, that seniors will have a really robust experience.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
I know that with Lynna and with the guidance staff, they're just the unsung heroes in so many instances, and so it's just good to hear you say all that stuff, which they're
tremendous. And we were thinking and planning for this even before the school year ended last year.
Sure.
Simply because we said we have to prepare for any and all contingencies. And so the team they are amazing. First of all, I have to give a shout out to my counseling staff. They're tremendous. But they were working on this already, really beginning in April and May, to get us ready in the event that this was the situation that we were in, to really support our seniors. So I really don't feel that they are going to be at any disadvantage at all, because our staff is ready to jump in and support them, and we're poised to do that and launch really next week.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. John Parks?
Yeah, I want to just touch base quickly on what Carla was just mentioning. I actually have an incoming senior who had a great session with her guidance counselor. I want to say it was probably early June, for 35 minutes on the phone. It's an amazing staff. I know Lynna's staff is top notch. We're looking at SATs on Saturday in Winchester. So SATs are happening. Not all are getting canceled. So we do have ways of approaching it. It's tricky. We know it. John, as far as new staff coming in, I know we've got an induction going on now. How is that going?
How is the induction going?
Yes.
Okay, I can let Chris answer that. Actually, we just finished it.
Yeah, hi. So we had a hybrid induction this year, which is the first time we've done it. We had about 25 professional staff come in on hybrid training on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Today was a day for them to meet with their mentors. They've all been assigned a mentor. It went really, really well. I have to say, their energy, their excitement, I think they felt really good. The in-session parts were done in the pack. Socially distancing. I just want to do a huge shout out to the various groups that helped. Erica McNamara, Sammy Sulkin, the SRO officers, the tech folks that got us all set up. We had technology training with our ITS staff. Lauren Sabella helped organize all our youth mental health training. And really just Jennifer Stice and Allison Wright did the mandated training. It was really great. We really did a lot of relying on resiliency. I quoted my favorite person these days, Brene Brown, and being okay with being perfectly imperfect. This new group is excited. They're ready to go. Our principals did what they do best, and they hired some great people. And it was really the whole gamut of. We didn't have any preschool folks in the team, but from elementary all the way to high school, and they were really terrific. And it was great to be in the building and see them. So it's over now. We do have some. What we're doing now is any of the late hires, I'm communicating with them by email to give them all of the presentations. We will be training them with youth mental health, and we will be following up. And they're being assigned mentors the minute they are official. So, you know, the welcome wagon will continue.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else?
Chuck, may I say
Yes.
something? Hi, Chuck. Hi, everyone. It's Sarah
Oh,
Lebeck.
sure.
Thank you. So I just want to take a moment and thank all of you for inviting us to be here, but also for listening to us. And I agree with everything that's being stated. I think from the principal perspective, it's certainly been a challenging summer, and not the way we wanted everything to turn out, which I think would be true of all our families. And Sean, to your point a little bit earlier, what could you do to support us? I think the bigger question is, what can the committee do to support all our staff right now? And I think we're hearing, unfortunately, some really upsetting information that's going out about staff not wanting to be at school or just inaccurate information. And I think I can speak from all of the staff that I've spoken with or have had to have conversations with over the summer. Everyone wants to be at school. We miss our kids. We love our jobs. We want to be around them. And these decisions to not return, for whatever reason it may be, are really challenging and are not something that our staff are taking really lightly. So, you know, just like many of you I know are still working from home in some capacity, you know, to ask our staff to make that decision between either childcare or taking care of someone they love or having to go into the building for some reason. You know, we're asking them to, in some cases, choose between the job they love to do and what they want to be doing with the kids in the way that they want to be doing it, and having to make really hard decisions. So I think something that we would appreciate your continued support on is just really getting out there and saying to the community that our staff are deeply committed to our kids in the Reading Public Schools, and they want to be here, and that they're going to do everything in their power to get back as quickly as possible and to take care of our kids in whatever capacity that is. So the more that we can just promote that and support our staff, I think for us, that will go a long way from an administrative perspective to know that, you know, you just have our back. I know the community does, but that being said, I would love to see less negativity and a lot more positivity in what we're doing. So I just wanted to take a moment to say that, and thank you all for inviting us and listening. These are certainly not easy decisions, but it's where we are right now, and you know, we appreciate the support moving forward.
Thank you for those words. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Doherty. And so now we'll, so this is what we've obviously gotten out. We've gotten several emails in public comment, and so what I'd like to ask the committee is, I've kind of already started doing this, so Carla helped me, is kind of grouping the emails by category as opposed to reading out each one, if that's all right with the committee, and we'll acknowledge in the grouping who specific or who sent them, but not read each person's email if they're about the same category. Is the committee comfortable with that, or?
Yes.
Chuck, can I ask the question?
Sure.
With the exception of one which specifically highlighted public comment, is it your opinion that a number of emails we've gotten tonight related to bargaining are intended to be part of public comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, that was, I don't think that everyone necessarily specifies rightly or wrongly. It's probably my fault that it is not being very clear that the caption line should say for public comment, but I think that they, they're regarding this, so I think it's appropriate. Does the committee not comfortable with that, or? Carla, did you have something?
May I make a recommendation that we kind of just, excuse me, categorize these and then include them in our next packet?
Yes, that's what that's what I said. Yep.
Okay. Would you like me to do that?
Yes.
Okay. So we have received, in addition to what's included in the packet, we have received from 4 parents or sets of parents about getting back to school. We've received comments from Claudia, and I'm going to, please excuse me for some of these pronunciations. Azevedo, from Jay Tagney, from Katie Melly, from Kevin and Barbara Mulvey. We received 37 emails since the beginning of the meeting, and it is about, Chuck, would you like to summarize it from the teachers?
Yep.
Okay, it's about teachers returning to school during remote learning and teaching from within the school instead of from their homes. In a nutshell, we have received, as I said, from 37 teachers, from Jessica Bailey from the high school, from Joyce Kamenker from Rise, from Sarah Doan from Coolidge, and she's also a parent, from Aisha Khan from the high school, Amy Ropel from Parker, Julie Gilchrist from Barrows, Allison Matthews, I'm not sure where she is working, Caroline Allison, I'm not sure where she is working either, Leah Christie from Parker, Danja Mahoney from the high school, Jennifer Gray from Parker, Frank Buono from the high school, Joe Ellen McGinty from Killam, Jacqueline Gargano, I'm not sure where she is working, Fiona Schutte from the high school, Deborah Forrestel from Barrows, Victoria Penna from Barrows, Heather Murphy from Barrows, Megan Howie from the high school, Robin Farazani from Parker, Molly Pelletier from Coolidge, Sarah Lentz from Barrows, Lauren Iannacci from Parker, Stacy Kress from Joshua Eaton, Grace Terrio from Parker, Pam Boston from Barrows, Andrew Spinelli from Parker, Bristol Leiper from the high school, Cara Engelson, I'm not sure where she is working, John Laracy from Barrows, Stephanie Waite from the high school, Helen Palmieri from Killam, Timothy McIntyre from the high school, Allison Sanchez, special ed, Megan Kaiser from Parker, Julianne Matrano from Parker, and Kate Gregory from the high school. We have received 6 additional emails on different topics. One is from Beth Hurley. She is an art and music teacher, and she is asking about the specialists working 1 school per semester. Eric Goldstein, who is from Parker and the RTA president, who has sent us a link to an article on Amherst Pelham District about teachers and how they are valued and cared for. Jeff Coram sent us a question about our mask policy, which we incorporated into our discussion tonight. Michelle Jones asked for a school committee link to this meeting. I hope we sent that out.
Yes,
Jerry,
we did.
thank you. Jerry Mullen provided a clarification about face shields and how they protect the eyes. And Julie Haratunian asking about the phase-in delay. And we got a very nice letter from Katie Cole asking us all to be patient and respectful of one another. And she is a teacher and a resident of Reading. And
we just got another one.
From Melissa Milner. And she is also a teacher from Birch Meadow. So, you know, we definitely value and appreciate that, all of that feedback, and you know, we'll read that and consider that, and as you mentioned, the reason why we read those will go in the packet anyway. So again, we do appreciate that and thank everybody for taking the time to send those. Anyone else? Okay. Is there any other topics anyone would like to discuss tonight? May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Just based on these emails, is it possible to have a comments that come in like this? Can we allow people to come into the meeting to express their concerns instead of us reading emails like this?
Yeah. So we started to talk about that, and there's just been a lot going on, but I'm going to work, I'll discuss that with Dr. Doherty. I think the Board of Selectmen has that now, where people can call in on a link, so I would like to do the same, and then that gives people an opportunity to speak freely, as opposed to, you know, just sending an email. So
thank you.
Along that same line, have we considered if and when we're willing to go back into the library for this meeting? There was a thread on MASC recently about the meetings that are kind of joint, where the committee and maybe a couple of the administrators are in person, socially distanced appropriately, but then the Teams or Zoom meeting is available for the public participation as well.
yeah, so that's another thing that we started to talk to the superintendent about, and there's just been a lot. He's been involved in a lot of things, and just didn't put that on his plate this week. But I agree. You know, I don't know whether we have to get the Board of Health's approval, John, for that, or how that. But I agree with you, Tom. I think if there's a way we can meet and certain staff is there, and then have a Zoom or a Teams call in for the public so that they don't have to be there, I'd like to do that.
Chuck, there's an issue with that. If we're going to hold a public meeting, we can't block anybody from entering that public meeting.
In regards to what Tom was saying on the mask listserv, because I have been bringing this up with Chuck. There are towns that are having people call in, so they're starting to meet. The school committee is starting to meet in person. Those who are able to, and then public are able to call in with live questions and commentary. So I do think there are adaptations being made as people figure this out.
Yeah. So John, was that John Parks? Was that your opinion, or is that a fact that you know? Because I know there's been a lot of accommodations made to open meeting because of COVID. So
There have been
Aaron's point.
adaptations, Chuck. I agree.
What's that?
I said there have been adaptations,
Yeah.
but if you look at our last town meeting, we had to open the pack for anybody that wanted to attend in the pack. So I'd prefer seeing some legal guidance on
Well, those
meeting.
people, that's fair. We can do that, but I will say with town meeting, those were elected town meeting members, not general public. So there is a distinction.
But anybody could have walked in because it was an open meeting and sat in.
Town meeting and sit in the back.
Yes.
You can't, yeah. Yeah, well, we can certainly, yeah, I wouldn't do it without making sure we had all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, so.
Perfect.
Aaron, did you?
Yeah, we just got one more message. Katie Cole would really like us to read her message out loud for public comment.
Okay. Do you have that in front of you? I don't have, I get it.
I can find it.
I have it if you want me to read it.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead.
Okay. To the Reading School Committee and the Reading community, as a Reading resident and a Reading teacher, I wanted to take a moment to commend you, each of you, for all that you've done and continue to do during this unprecedented time. Each parent, each family member, each neighbor, each administrator, each school committee member, and most importantly, each child. Look how far we've all come, and look at all that we have overcome since March. There's no easy way, no perfect, and no one-size-fits-all as we plan to return to school during this global pandemic. We're all human and doing the very best we can to navigate this time with our own individual personal needs and the needs of our families in mind. We are all in this together. We may differ in our opinions and what we want or think should be happening, but we need to respect each other and remind ourselves that we're all riding on different ships in the same storm. We need to continue to respect each other. Each of us needs a village right now. Your kids, you, myself, and my colleagues as teachers. Social media townwide, statewide, and worldwide has given us a forum to share thoughts, ideas, and opinions. Unfortunately, some of those opportunities have resulted in hurtful judgments and comments toward teachers and community members. Please support each other and support your child's teacher, regardless of any differences in opinion. The children of Reading need all of us united, working to support them in the best possible manner throughout this difficult time. As we move to our school opening, I ask that you please continue to practice mask use and enforce safe social distancing and vacation quarantines over these few weeks. Throughout this pandemic, there's one thing I'm certain of, one thing that never wavers. We all love Reading children and want the very best for them. We all wish we were back in a time of teaching and learning where these struggles were not occurring, but this is simply not a reality at this time. Be the village. Thank you, Katie Cole, Minot Street, Reading.
Thank you, Katie. So we did just get another email from a staff member imploring us to read the emails out loud. And, you know, I'm not trying to, censor anyone or not read something. I was just trying to make this, I'm happy to do that if that's what the committee wants to do. I mean, they are going to go in the packet, so so they will be public, but I'll ask the committee, if we want to read all of those, we certainly can. I mean, we certainly value them all, and I wasn't suggesting that we don't read them because I don't value them. I was just trying to be more efficient for the meeting, but I'll take any advice from the committee on that. If anyone thinks we should read them or putting them in the packet is sufficient.
Maybe there's a compromise, Chuck. Maybe we can read 5 or something like that. I mean, there are 38 or 39 of them now. So I do think reading all 38 or 39 would, keep us here probably till midnight. But I think maybe there's a, 5 or 8 or something like that we can read that would be representative sample.
Okay, Carla.
You're muted.
On mute.
Sorry, there's actually about 50 emails. My suggestion is that we put them in the packet and then maybe for next meeting, have an option for people to come in to make public comment like we would in person. Maybe we bring them into a waiting room or however that happens over Teams. Have them in the waiting room and we'll have a public comment section where people can get on camera and voice their opinions. That would be my suggestion.
I'd feel better if we read some of them, to be quite honest. I'm sorry, I know it's late, but they're
I
really
agree.
passionately written, and I know that it's. I don't know. I'm not a Reading public school teacher, but I hear from teachers that it's hard for them to put themselves out there in that way. And these are people that like really have just put themselves out there. So I would feel better if we read at least some of them to get at the gist of what they're trying to communicate to us.
Okay. I can accept that. As I said, I wasn't trying to not, yeah. So do you want to,
I don't know how we select. I mean, we don't have a hat to pull out of necessarily. That's the only problem with reading a representative sample. But maybe we could read from the bottom up and say first come, first serve. But I would also say if we're going to read those, we probably need to read some of the parent ones as well. I think the last one we read from a parent one was very good, but there are other opinions there too that I think we need to represent appropriately if we're going to represent one side.
okay, so going from the bottom up, the first one I saw was from Jess Bailey. Is that?
From a teacher perspective, that was the first one.
That's what I mean, yeah.
So it was Katie Johnson was the very first one that didn't make it into the packet, that looks like to me.
I responded to her email yesterday. You sure that was in the packet?
I had Debbie Hattery as the first one that didn't make the
Katie's
packet.
is in the packet.
I think you're right. It was Debbie Hattery. Sorry.
So if
Right,
you want
so why don't we start with Jess Bailey and then we can go a staff member and then a parent, like in that order. So does someone want to read Jessica Bailey's, or I can too? Up to you guys. Dear, hello, members of the school committee. I want to begin by saying that I appreciate the difficult position you were all in, especially Dr. Doherty after last week's announcement about needing to delay the hybrid phase of the return to school. I know that was not a decision you made lightly, and I appreciate that you did not try to force a return under the conditions that would have set up the district for failure. I know many parents are disappointed by the delay, but reopening in person without the necessary technology or staff would only cause frustration and a negative experience for children. I am confident that our teachers will be able to deliver high quality, enriching, engaging, and interactive remote lessons. Teachers I have talked to at the high school are planning in-depth interactive projects that make use of group-based learning, something we can do remotely thanks to the like Teams and Zoom, but would not be able to do in person. I know many teachers have already been working off the clock, setting up remote teaching spaces, designing lessons, and preparing to meet virtually with their students, which is why I'm so disappointed to learn that the district plans to require teachers to be in their classrooms to deliver remote lessons. While I certainly think teachers should be allowed to come into the building if that better suits their teaching, to demonstrate a lab, for example, or to use resources only available at the school, requiring all teachers to deliver their lessons from their buildings feels both short-sighted and punitive. It's short-sighted because despite assurances to the contrary, I don't believe that all Wi-Fi capabilities are robust enough for everyone, in parentheses, 100 plus teachers at the high school to be streaming their classrooms simultaneously. This summer, I attended meetings with RPS employees who were working from their buildings, and their Wi-Fi connections were much less stable than those at home. Additionally, we were told last week that we haven't received the expected technology yet. While details have not been provided about what is missing, I am concerned that we will not have the technology in place to do successful teaching from the buildings. When our lessons fail because of technology, parents will assume it's because the teachers were unprepared. It's short-sighted because requiring teachers to be in the building during remote learning means they will be required to leave their kids at home. Moreover, many teachers feel that requiring them to be at school at this point, while the MERV 13 fillers are not expected to be installed for weeks, is not safe. This will force some teachers who are not planning on beginning their leaves of absence until the hybrid phase to begin their leaves immediately. This will jeopardize not only the hybrid model, but the remote model as well. In bold, when this happens, the responsibility will not lie with the RTA, despite what many in the community often think. We cannot be more clear on this matter. We are urging you to take action now to avoid this situation. It's short-sighted because the argument that it will help familiarize students with their classrooms is frankly without merit. On a Zoom or Teams meeting, participants are reduced to the thumbnail-sized images, even in a full-screen mode, unless teachers rearrange their classrooms, which we have carefully set up for distance learning. Students are going to be treated to a view of the classroom directly behind the teacher's desk, hardly the full view of the entire room that could help students be familiar with their learning environment. Moreover, the students' learning environment is their homes, not the environment. Not the teachers. I'm sorry. If a student sees their teacher in their home environment, it helps the student feel that learning at home is more normal, less than they're missing something from being at home. Finally, this decision feels punitive because it's hard not to think that it's really meant to be helping students get familiar with the learning environment and routines. Is what don't trust teachers to establish routines and procedures without oversight from the administrators. You've trusted us to deliver high quality, rigorous instructions to Reading students before the pandemic. Give us the training we need to use the technology and trust us now. Teachers have always risen to the challenge and placed on them by whatever struggles the community was facing. Trust us like the professionals we are, and we'll do it again. Sincerely, Jess Bailey, RMHS Social Studies teacher and RTA Vice President. Okay, thank you, Jess. Does someone want to read the Hattery one?
I'll read it. Dear Reading School Committee, thanks for all the hours and hard work you've put in the last several months to help lead and guide our school district through the coronavirus pandemic and the many other important social issues facing our entire community. I'm writing this brief email to request that continued thought and consideration be given to this year's seniors as you deliberate opening and operating plans for the schools in the district. As a parent of 2 incoming freshmen and a senior, I'm eager to see them all back in the classroom as soon as possible, but understand the myriad of constraints laid out in recent updates from the superintendent and in Zoom updates with Principal Boynton that are causing delays to implementing the hybrid plan. Having already had another child graduate from RMHS in 2019, I understand how important it is to get the freshmen off to the right start, and that in a normal situation it would make sense to get them started first before the upperclassmen to acclimate them to the high school. However, with the late start to the school year at RMHS and the in-person hybrid date potentially being moved back yet again, combined with several Midwestern and Southern college early action deadlines ranging from October 1st to October 15th, quickly followed by most others on November 1st, I'm asking that you consider having the senior, junior cohort start first, or at least give each senior the opportunity to meet with their teachers and guidance counselor in person in the coming weeks to finalize college application information. I remain hopeful that with continued hard work and creativity, we can get our kids back in the classroom as soon as possible, and greatly appreciate your efforts to do so. Thank you for your consideration. Debbie Hattery.
Thank you, Tom. Does somebody want to read another email from a teacher?
May I read one, Chuck?
Yes.
This one is from Stacy Kress. She is a reading specialist at Joshua Eaton. Dear school committee members, Dr. Doherty, and members of the Reading community, my name is Stacy Kress. I am the Reading specialist at the Joshua Eaton School. I've been an educator in Reading for 20 years. I have taught hundreds of students over the course of my career in Reading, built relationships with parents, and supported both my colleagues and administrators in a variety of initiatives. I firmly believe I have worked hard at earning the respect of the community in which I teach in. I am fortunate that I have a career that I value every single day. I'm writing to you today to share a personal story, one that is my reality and a response to the DESE recommendation that educators are required to teach remotely from classrooms. In preparation to return to work on Monday, I made the decision to remove my 3 school-age children from my home and send them out of state to stay with my extended family. This decision was made with the understanding that I would be able to work remotely from home and juggle childcare on the weeks I'd be in the building. This decision is not ideal for my family, but I was open to doing whatever was necessary to support my students in school. If the school committee agrees that teachers will be required to be in the building 100% of the time, I will be forced to take a leave as my family's emotional needs must come first. I do not want to take a leave. I am forced to make this decision. It will come with reservation because I know that whether I am in the school building or at home teaching remotely, I am able to provide meaningful instruction and emotional support to my students. In fact, I had parents send emails to me in June supporting my efforts and thanking me. My work ethic is stellar whether I am in the building or at home. My values do not change. I want to continue providing quality instruction to the children of Reading. I am respectfully requesting that Reading Public Schools extend the same respect to the teachers that are open to managing personnel responsibilities while maintaining the same quality education we have always provided. Stacy Kress, Reading Specialist, Joshua Eaton.
Okay, thank you. So you saw the email that someone suggested that we read an email from each building. So I think that was a good suggestion. Does someone have one from Barrow? So we've had Eaton in the high school. We can
I have
go
one
with
from Barrows, Chuck.
Barrows. Yep.
I have one from Barrows.
Go ahead, John.
All right, this is from Heather Murphy, 4th grade teacher at Barrows. Members of the school committee, I am writing to ask you to reconsider your bargaining position with respect to requiring teachers to teach from their classroom. There are many teachers with young children that will be home or hybrid in the next few weeks that are now being faced with childcare issues. This will result in additional leaves of absence and more teacher openings. Employers everywhere are being flexible with their employees and allowing them to work from home to support their family needs. Why is this not a priority in Reading? What greater purpose does this serve the district, the staff, or students? All this does is cause more stress on already stressed teachers. I respectfully request the committee reconsider its position on how on this and show support for our teachers and their families. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. So is there another one in that category, Carla, from a parent?
Claudia Azevedo, Jay Tagney, Katie Melly, and Kevin and Barbara Mulvey are the parents.
Can you read one of those?
Sure.
Again, and I'll stress, these are all going in the packet.
So Claudia was the first one that came in. I know the school committee is meeting tonight. I just wanted to express my opinion about the upcoming school year. As a healthcare professional that has been working throughout this pandemic, I understand that it's an unprecedented time. That being said, I feel that it would be beneficial to get the students back in the classroom sooner rather than later. The COVID numbers in Massachusetts are down, and this is where we should get the students to meet their teachers and set expectations for the school year. It is inevitable that we will most likely be remote at some point this fall. I also feel that the best remote option would be for the teachers without childcare issues to be teaching from their classrooms at the high school versus their homes. Teaching from school will present a sense of normalcy to the students. The teachers will have the necessary equipment and support from the technology staff if issues arise. Teachers would be less at risk of COVID teaching from the classrooms without students than taking a trip to the grocery store. Thank you for your time, Claudia Azevedo.
Okay. Does someone have an email from Parker?
I can read one.
Yep.
This is from Leah Christie, who's a Spanish teacher at Parker. Good evening. First and foremost, I want you to know that I appreciate all your time and efforts during this difficult time. I also will publicly state that it is my extreme desire to return in-person instruction with my students as soon as possible. I have been horrified by the disrespectful comments toward Reading teachers on social media, and it is very disheartening. I worked the hardest I ever did in my life this spring. I worked around the clock, 9 to 11-hour days, and I felt guilty and awful as I neglected my own 6-year-old daughter. I also virtually ignored my 11-year-old daughter, but was fortunate that she could handle her remote learning on her own. My 6-year-old is also a struggling reader and really needed more help, but I was pouring myself into creating lessons, screencasts, slideshows with links, and providing constant and immediate feedback to my 80+ students to keep them engaged and connected. It has come to my attention that the Reading Public Schools seem to be favoring that teachers work out of the building during remote learning. This has just come up in the past week. If this is mandated, I will have to consider a leave of absence. My daughters both attend the Wakefield Public Schools. My oldest attends Galvin, and if the hybrid model begins on September 29th, she will be at school on Thursdays and Fridays. My youngest in elementary will be assigned to a morning or afternoon cohort, and she will attend daily for 3 hours. We have 3 people in this house at 3 different schools, 2 different districts, and none of our plans align. I need flexibility to be here for my own children. I'm offended that as a professional, I'm not given the option. There are almost no other professions that would be required to go to their buildings to perform their jobs in a remote scenario. This is what the word remote means. I have taught many of your children, and I really hope no one would ever question my commitment and dedication to the children. Sorry, there's so many messages popping up. To the children of Reading and my job. We as an entire nation have been put in an impossible situation, and creative solutions must be sought to make this work. I do not believe allowing teachers to be physically at their homes is too much to ask, and I'm really hoping that many of you will stand up and support us. Thank you for your understanding and consideration, Leah Christie.
Thank you. Sean, did you have one from what end?
I don't believe I recognized any names from Woodend, unless somebody saw one that I missed. I could read a Coolidge one.
You said Coolidge. I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
could read a Coolidge one.
I didn't see any from Woodend either, Sean.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Hopefully I would have recognized those names. Dear School Committee, I'm writing to urge you to eliminate the requirement for teachers to teach remotely from our classrooms. This entirely new proposal, just days before school starts, is like ripping the rug out from under us as teachers. Many more staff, like myself, will end up having to take leaves for childcare reasons. This is on top of the 97 inquiries that had been made before this new information was released. This is an issue for many staff, but especially for those of us that live in town whose kids are now learning remotely from home until a much later date. I strongly believe there will be a flood of new leave requests, which will again delay the start of school for our community. This is not necessary. Teaching remotely from our classroom has no educational benefits for our students. Much of the world has transitioned to working from home with success over the last 6 months. Why would teachers not be granted this same opportunity? Thank you, Sarah Doan, Coolidge teacher and RPS parent.
Okay, so I'll read one from Killam, from Joe Allen McGinnity. Dear school committee members, I'm writing to urge the committee to make in-person remote teaching from our respective buildings an option for Reading teachers. We want nothing more than to connect with our students and form the meaningful relationships that are fundamental in education. This will prove to be challenging in a remote forum. However, my colleagues and I are willing to go above and beyond to ensure this happens. Whether we sit at a laptop in the school buildings or at another location is not an essential component of these connections. With so many teachers facing challenges in regards to their healthy well-being and family dynamics, I believe that the location of where we instruct from should be optional. I can assure you teachers will be working far greater hours than those designated in our contract to create a viable, meaningful learning community. Sincerely, Joe Ellen C. McGinnity, Killam, grade 3. Did we have another parent one?
Do you want me to do Jay Tagney?
Sure.
Dear School Committee, I'm writing to express my sincere and deep concern about the constantly changing plans for returning to school in Reading, particular at Reading Memorial High School. I have 3 children in Reading schools, 7th, 9th, and 12th grades. All the children and their families need a meaningful, reliable, and competent plan to continue their education, and priority has to be given to the RMHS senior class for what should be obvious reasons. I won't belabor the long list of issues and pressures seniors face, as you already know them. Many of these students have worked their entire lives to make it this far, to the brink of a very challenging and competitive college application process. To fail them now is irresponsible and unacceptable. Constantly changing the plan also adds to the stress and uncertainty of an already difficult situation. These kids deserve better, and it's your job and responsibility to find a way, however creative, to navigate these challenging times and devise a remedy that works. So far, that has not happened. Please dig in and find a way to prioritize returning to school based on the facts, needs, and priorities of all those concerned. Seniors have to be at the top of that list. Sincerely, Jay Tagney.
Okay, thank you. Did we have, I was looking for one from Birch Meadow. I didn't find one.
There is one,
Okay,
I think. Yeah, she doesn't say it at the bottom, but it says it embedded in the, do you want me to read it?
sure, thank you.
Okay, this is from Melissa Milner. Good evening. My name is Melissa Milner, and I'm a 4th grade teacher at Birch Meadow. I am very concerned about the unnecessary risk for all teachers if we do remote teaching at school. The risk far outweighs the few supposed benefits. Why take a risk that can be avoided? We work very hard to provide an outstanding education for the children in Reading, and being physically in school for remote teaching does not make the content or our teaching better. The core of our work is not our physical classroom. This process has been unbelievably stressful for everyone. Why are we adding another level of stress? And one more thing. Below is an article from Education Week about this. It is balanced and realistic. I hope you will vote to protect the teachers from unnecessary risk.
Thank you. So did that, I think that covered all the, we said we had Wood End, that was Sarah.
Sarah was Coolidge, but there aren't any from Wood End.
Oh, that I'm sorry, yeah, okay.
We have a few
Okay,
more parent ones.
need another parent one?
I'll take Katie Melly.
Okay.
Dear Reading School Committee members, I'm writing as a parent of 3 children in Reading Public Schools. To say I am disappointed in the announcement to further postpone in-person learning in Reading Public Schools is an understatement. It has come to my attention that the biggest issue that our schools face is the number of staff that have taken a leave and that our schools are now unable to staff appropriately. I'm shocked to learn that staff were offered the opportunity to take 1-year leave if they have children under 18 years of age. Why was this given as an option? When did an education for our children become optional? Teachers and school staff are essential to the community, and community members are paying large amounts in tax dollars for their children to have access to an education. I'm a nurse at an area hospital, and I have worked throughout this entire crisis. I had to figure out how to have my children learning remote while both my husband and I went to work as essential workers. I had to figure out how to have my children home this summer without the option of camp or having grandparents help because we would not put them at risk. I showed up every day for work when there was a 29% infection rate. I was scared, but I showed up because I have an obligation to the institution I work for to provide care to the patients and families that need us, pandemic or not. I gave up planned vacation time. I worked more weekends than I'm required to work. I worked different shifts than I was hired for because we're in a crisis and everyone needs to adapt and do their part. Why does our school staff not feel an obligation to the children that need education, pandemic or not? We're in a state where our infection rates have steadily been less than 2%, and most recently we have had periods with infection rates less than 1.5%. We live in a state where our leaders follow the data closely. We need to pull back due to increased infection rates. I'm confident that that will happen. We know a lot more than when I was heading into work while there was a 29% infection rate. We're incredibly disappointed that a public school education is being treated as optional. Teachers that are contracted to teach in our schools should not have the option to bail on this school year on the children of Reading because it's hard or out of fear. The biggest thing I learned walking into work every day for the last 6 months is that I had to face my fear. I followed all the rules and precautions, did my job, even while being unsure if I would get the PPE I needed. I learned by facing that fear that we could do it safely. I have not yet been infected, and a low percentage of employees at my institution have been infected. With the exception of staff deemed high risk due to an age or underlying health condition, I'm appalled that the Reading school staff has been given this out. It was offered to staff without time to prepare to fill open positions for the school year when children are depending on them. Nobody signed up for this. I did not sign up to be a mother during a pandemic, and I did not sign up to be a nurse through a pandemic. Yet, here we all are, and we need to step up and do the right thing for our community. Our children deserve to have an education in the classroom with their teachers. Personally, it's hard for my family if my kids return hybrid. It's hard for my family if they're fully remote. I want what is in the best interest of my children, even though it's difficult. My children need to be in the classroom unless the data shows an increase in infection rates that no longer indicates that it's safe. Please set the expectation that our students need to be back in the classroom as soon as possible. Sincerely, Katie Melly.
Hey, thank you. I think we read one from each school and read a good chunk of the parents, gives us a good, or gives the public through this meeting a good sense of what all the emails that will go in the packet. I know we've gotten some additional emails criticizing the format that this was done in. Unfortunately, this is another consequence of the COVID-19 crisis, and we're trying to do our best with this. And as we talked a few minutes ago, the sooner we get back in a public meeting, then people will be welcome and allowed to hopefully participate in person as opposed to having to send an email or through a Zoom link. We'll figure that out. We're doing our best, and there was never an intent to not hear somebody's voice. We're trying to not, just trying to be mindful of how many emails there were, and also letting people know that they will be in the packet. So I thank the community for the feedback on that and your patience with us. So thank you. Is there anyone else that has anything? So is there any motions?
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tom,
Aye.
Carla,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
Chuck, I'd also like to just thank all the principals and central office staff and Dr. Doherty for all the work that went into getting ready for tonight and for participating tonight. Thanks again. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.